this is Hannah and welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing something very different. I have no idea what this video is going to look like when I'm done with it. I'm really practicing for a live craft session on one of my Facebook groups. So this is a project that's been in my head for a while. I started with this background. I did, like I used a stencil and I did some white splatter, and now I know I need to add a little bit more to it, but I figure I can do that during this process. I want to use a fairy theme, so I have this fairy stamp that I like. I've never used it before. I got it because I liked it and then I never used it. And it's like, I don't know, 9-10 years old, maybe older. It could be much older. I think I want to use this stencil because I want to put sparkle in it. These are just some tools that I'm going to use to spread this Nova glacier paste if I decide to use that to create the twinkly star background. I'm not going to use these mushrooms because they don't fit the scenario, so I stamped multiples of this little mushroom, and so maybe I'll be able to build a motif. I was just trying to stamp everything that I might need in order to build this design. So like I said, I don't really know where I'm going with this, and the first thing I try, which is I'm going to stamp some additional background images on here, might make me have to create another background, but that's okay. It's trial and error, and this is really how I create, and we will see how successful my editing skills are when this is all done. I think I want to use this background stamp. For one reason, it gives me a lot of coverage on this background sheet that I have. It's not really a master board, but for my purposes I guess it is. I had intended to cut it down to use on a A2 card, but I want to create this scene, and I'm going to cut the panel out and use it on a Slimline card, which is what I'm trying to build now. But I don't want to stamp this in black because I just think black would be far too overpowering, and since I have so much coverage, it's going to cover a lot of my background design, which in and of itself might be okay because some of it, like you can see down here, I had some areas that were a little muddy. Let me see if I can lift that up. And then the other thing that I forgot when I was putting down my distress inks is that distress inks fade after you use them. The color is going to get a little lighter. It looks really dark when you first put it down, but it does tend to lighten up on you. And so I'd forgotten that because I think I used the regular distress and not the distress oxides here. And the other thing I did that caused some of these colors to lighten up is that I used a little bit of glycerin to blend the colors in because I didn't want hard lines, and I didn't want to spend a very, very long time trying to go back in with different colors and blend out the hard lines between the colors. So I put some glycerin on a sponge, and I keep my little glycerin bowl. Well, now it's all on my table, but I keep my little glycerin bowl in front of me, and it will stay in there a long time. I just dip my sponge in there and use that. So I'm going to try this, and then if I end up with a disaster, we will start all over again creating a new background for this project. So I'm going to be very brave here, and what I'm using is the Memento London Fog, and I could put this on my stamp platform, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just leave it on the acetate backing, and I should probably, sorry for the noise, I tend to press a stamp hard. I know it doesn't put any more ink down, but I always worry about not getting enough ink coverage. So I'm going to leave it on this little flexible background, and I guess I could stamp it off on another sheet to make sure that I get, and I think I'm going to do that. Just going to turn it over and stamp, rub it, and pull it up so that when I put it on here, it's just going to be a shadow and not the full impression. So like you'll barely see it. I hope. I hope. The good thing, yeah, like so you can barely see that. You'd have to be right up on it to see it. And I like that because with these layered mixed media backgrounds, you have multiple layers and you don't want everything to be strong. Some things need to fade into the background. So even though this is a little lighter than I wanted it to be, it breaks up some of the color that I had in here when you're looking at it close up. And I have some other stamping that I'm going to do on this background that will pop out a little more and will draw the eye to that portion that I just stamped. I might mention right here that I am not going to throw this away because I can use this panel in another project. I will just color over it with Distress Oxides. I can't use paint because my paint is my paint will cover it up because it's very it's opaque, but it would really cover this up more than I would like it to. So whenever you're stamping off, always save the stamped off portion so that you can go back and color over it. Okay, now I went and picked up this set of stamps because these are all individual stamps, but I'm going to leave them on this piece of acetate just as they are, and I'm going to make some additional impressions on this page using these stamps as they are. I'm not going to change them at all except for the numbers. I may stamp the numbers this way and then stamp them this way on another portion of the card. So when you're looking at the background stamps, a lot of the grunge stamps, and there's a lot of, the trend right now is to use a lot of these background stamps like the ones that are done by AALL and Create. If you can't afford to do that because those stamps are very expensive, look at the stamp sets that you have, particularly if you have like postcards or script, or this butterfly has a map on it. So you look at those stamps and see how you can put them on a piece of acetate in a configuration that you can use to stamp, and you won't have to go out and buy a lot of expensive background stamps. It just depends on your budget whether you can do that. I don't have the budget to go out and buy a whole lot of expensive stamps. So I try to be creative in the use of my stamps. Okay, so I've added these stamps, and also when you're looking at this, you have to remember I am going to take a die and cut this panel out to fit on a Slimline card. So all of this will not be on my finished product when I hold this up. So you'll just get a section of this dark stamp here, not the whole thing. And it just really depends on where I place my die when I get ready to do the cut. I wanted to tell you about another thing that you see here. These silicone mats that I'm using here, I got these because, well, my husband used to use them when he was soldering, and I thought, hey, this would be really cool to use when I was using my We Are Memory Keepers, the electric sealer, when you could make the pockets. I forget what it's called now, but it's down there in the drawer. And so I ordered these, and I ordered them from AliExpress. And I know a lot of people have an issue with AliExpress, and if you don't want to use them, that's fine. I think that one of the stamping companies sells a similar product, and it's 20 bucks or something like that. I paid $1.23 for this one, and $2 for this one. But if you want to spend $20 odd, then I forget the company that has it, but you can look, and they have these silicone mats, and I like using them. I've been using mine for a long time, and so I decided to order a bigger one because this one was too small. But it's really nice. I use it for all my foiling, and anytime I'm doing heat related things, then I use this. So that's what these mats are. Okay, so I think I'm going to start coloring my images and try to figure out where I want to place my die on here for my panel, because that'll help me determine what my scene's going to look like. Okay, so right now what I'm trying to do is to decide which area of this I want to use for my panel. And I'm just sliding, and it may be that I have to come in a little bit and use the next die side down. I started with this frame, and it's too long. I don't want any white, obviously, on the edge. So I went down. This is the next size, and I think I may even go down to an even thinner die frame, because then I will have a white border on my card. So this one is nice. It's a little it's narrow, so I can have a white frame. So I like that framing. I like that too, with the memories, and a part of the numbers are showing. My least favorite, I don't like the bottom one. While it captures all the memory portion, I just think that if I do it right here, that's far more interesting. There's a lot more for the eye to look at. So I think I'm going to use this part, and I'll save this bottom part for another project. Okay, so that's how I usually make my decisions on what's going to be showing and what's not going to be showing when I do these layered backgrounds. So I have my fairy and my first mushrooms colored. I'm going to cut those out, and then I can start playing with where I'm going to paste her. Now, I don't color. I'm not a colorist, I guess that's what you call it. I just look at what I have and look at the colors that I have in my panel, and I just try to match her colors to the colors that are in my panel. I'm sure some of you will be able to do a much better job of coloring than I've done here, but that's really not my goal. Okay. All right, so I've got my little fairy cut out, and this little mat here, my husband got this little small cutting mat for me at the Dollar Tree for $1, and it has become the most helpful thing because I had one that was much smaller. I think I still have it back here. Let's see. Yeah. So I had these. And obviously I've had them for a while because they're sort of beaten up. But these were only like 5 by 7, and this is 6 by 8. So it was a easier size to use. It gives me more space. And what I love about it is I don't have a cutting mat on this side of my table. I do on the other side. But having these little small ones, when I'm working on projects like this, I can just pull it over to my table and I can finish off my fussy cutting. Because what I have to do now is get down inside this little stamp and cut out these little tiny white spaces. If I were putting this on a white card base, I wouldn't worry about it, but this isn't going on a white card base, and so I don't want that white in the middle there. I want it all gone. So I'm just cutting those little pieces out, and I think I just got rid of a piece of my grass. It'll never be missed. Okay, this has been the most difficult video to complete. The video that I did showing the completion of this project, and now I'm literally going to choke on camera. Okay, the video that I shot showing how this card was completed, when I played it back, it was double talking. Like I would say something and I'd get an echo, and I was talking over myself. I have no idea what I did if I hit the wrong button because I have all new software. My recording software is new. My editing software is new. It's just I'm having a time. But anyway, I did complete the card, and I you know, when I'm doing this, I'm doing it as I'm recording it, and so it's not like I'm doing 2 or 3 and I have some already done and I'm prepared. Whatever I get on the video is what I get. So I will show you how I finished the card. Obviously, I cut a piece of black cardstock to use as my backing layer. And I usually, when I do this, I try to keep this at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I think that gives you the most dramatic effect. And I then 1/8 or maybe slightly larger, depending on my, you know, what I've done with the card base. And I think that makes everything on your card pop. In terms of the card itself, I think when my video failed, I had already stamped the background. I had cut it out, and I just went back in and I took a highlighter pen and I drew around the butterfly. I colored in the flowers this flower and a little bit on this flower. And those images came from this stamp. So, and if you recall, I did not take this stamp off of its acetate backing. I just stamped it so that this would form a background for me. And when I got ready to stamp these numbers up here, I just, moved the stamp like this up here. So I'm not going to separate this stamp into pieces. I have lots of butterflies and lots of, postage script stamps. And so I'm not going to separate it. I'm going to use this. For me, this is going to be a background configuration that I use on future stamps. But anyway, I just colored in the butterfly, as you can see, and I added glitter glue. And normally what I do is I'll put a little glitter glue right here, and then I use a paintbrush and brush it onto my images, because to me that's cheaper than buying Wink of Stella, which runs out too quickly. And I've done it enough now that I have pretty good control over how much glue I put down, because I really just want the suggestion of the glitter. I have lots of colors of glitter glue that my husband saw at the Dollar Tree. And so he just bought one of everything that they had there. As a matter of fact, he bought one or two, and some things he bought two of, some things he bought three of, things he thought that I might use a lot. And so I have all kinds of acrylic paint in these great big wonderful tubes, and I have just things like this, like the glitter glue and makeup, the blending brushes and things like that. He just came home one day with this huge box. So if you don't want to buy Wink of Stella, or you can't afford the Wink of Stella, you can use the glitter glue with a brush and just brush it on. And as long as you're not too heavy-handed with it, it will give you the effect that you want. I added that glitter glue to my butterflies, to her wings, to my little mushrooms. I also went back and added a little more white splatter, because all of the white splatter, once I cut this section out, was on one side, and I wanted it a little more balanced. So I just used my Sharpie paint marker and just tapped a little extra white splatter. For this sentiment word here, I cut out Dream from this stamp, stamped it with embossing ink onto black cardstock, embossed it with some Wow white embossing ink, and then I took my little tiny trim detail scissors right here and fussy cut all around it, and used my craft knife to cut out the center of the D, and it just makes it look like it's a shadow stamped or something, but it isn't. It's just cardstock. Then this was a single sentiment. It was where is it? Somewhere here. I don't know. I thought it was in this one, but maybe it's not in this one. But I just cut it out. This is one. So I stamped it. Oh, I know it's still on my, I can't find it because it's still on my stamp platform. But I just cut that out, and then I took my craft blade and cut it into pieces so that I could stagger it on the card. When we looked at the card the last time, and if you go to my blog, you'll be able to get I did a close-up shot. But the big stamp, this big stamp here, I stamped that first in the London Fog ink. When you're looking at the actual card, you can see the ghost stamping. You'll be able to see the letters, and you'll see the big seal. And that's what's interesting when you do these mixed media layered stamping techniques. it's all the interesting little details that run throughout the card, so that the person's eye, while it's drawn to the focal, when it then will start to look and take in other details like the stenciling. There's a lot of stenciling that goes on here. And then you have these circles, these green and this is mustard seed distress ink, not the distress oxide, it's the distress ink. And all I did was I took a bottle cap, well, it's the cap from one of my water bottles, and I just used that and just stamped the circle onto the card and up here too, using that mustard ink. So you'll get to have a lot of little, things going on your card. This is just an open heart charm, and I put a little clear crystal right there. On the focal image, if I can get this still enough for you to see it, as I always tell you, do not look at my coloring because, I'm not a colorist, but I went back and darkened some things up and tried to do like a little highlighting on the mushrooms. I also cut a third mushroom because the main image, as you recall, only had two right there. So I had already cut out several of these individual mushrooms. So I cut out one, made it this gold color, and I glued this one flat to the page, and I dimensioned everything else. The grass on either end of this I glued down to the card, and it makes it look like the grass is wrapping around, and then of course this middle section is on foam tape, so it's dimensioned, and it gives a very cool three-dimensional look. So that finished off the front of my card. And then on the inside, I took one of my sticky pads that I have in my planner. I have a rainbow pad that came with one of my planner kits. And I thought, well, rather than stamping a rainbow and coloring it, I will just cut one of those pads in pieces. Here was the pads are huge, and I cut a whole section out of here. But these were the colors that worked best with this card that I liked, and it's got the gold foil around the edges, so it's really pretty. And then I just took another sentiment from that sentiment set, stamped it here, and then colored another little mushroom and added it. And that's all I'm going to do to this card. The only thing I have to figure out now is the envelope. I think I'm just going to I'm going to make it, I have the envelope scoreboard, and so I'm going to make it on my scoreboard, but I think it's just going to be a white envelope, maybe with this image stamped on the front, and I probably won't even color it. I'll see, it depends. Okay, so that's that project. It really didn't take that long. It took me longer than probably it should have because I was stopping to explain stuff. So the important thing, I guess what I want to say in this video is this. All of the videos that I do are for beginners, because I am not an advanced skilled card maker. I'm just someone who likes to make cards. And I think that a lot of people get into this hobby and they get frustrated, they get disappointed, they have a lot of self-doubt because they find themselves competing with people who have been to art school, with people who do this as their job. And I think that somewhere along the line, people lose sight of the fact that this is, for most of us, just a hobby. most of these cards are going to end up in the trash. So it's really not worth getting into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt trying to buy everything that you see people using. I always like to caution beginners who watch my videos to remember one thing. When you see Tracy Evans, Jennifer McGuire, Tim Holtz, Michael Trent, I think, is one. Gina Kay. I mean, there are lots and lots of people out there. I'm just thinking of the people that I know of. But when you see these people and they're creating and they're doing videos, some of them do 2 and 3 videos a week, and they're using different products every single time you see them. They have every stamp set in the world. They have all the different inks. They're not buying that stuff. They're either being paid or they're being given free merchandise. It is their job. Nobody's paying you. So you can't, well, maybe you can. And if you can't afford to do that, I'm not talking to you. But if there's some other people out there like me and you can't afford to do that, don't do it. Do not get yourself into debt following trends. Do not get yourself into debt trying to keep up with people who have incomes in, 6 figures, and I'm talking high 6 figures, not that you just broke into the $100,000 range. I mean, these people have their own businesses. Their husbands have businesses where they're making lots of money, or they're in professions, they're making the money, and that's not an issue for them. So I just like to caution people. Get the basics, start small, and figure out ways that you can do things like this. These stamps came on this sheet like this, but I went through and took some of my other stamps that I had and I just arranged them on a thin piece of acetate. I have a lot of the Duralar acetate sheets, and I have some of those mylar sheets that you cut stencils out of, and I just took those and just started arranging my stamps on there. And you can create your own grunge backgrounds. You can do Finnabair backgrounds. You just have to be creative. Go through, see what you have, and be creative. And then you don't have to buy things. And when you buy things, it will be minimal that you are spending. And I'm not knocking anybody. Like I said, if you have the money, if you don't mind running up debt, then you go have at it. But if you are a person who's, like a lot of people in this country are dealing with reduced income and a lot of other issues because of this pandemic, don't let your hobby become a burden. Don't let your hobby become a job, because then you won't enjoy it as much. So that's my lecture for today. I hope it helped somebody, and I hope that this project helped you. What I want to do next, and I can't give you a timeline for when I'm going to do it, but I just got all of this in the mail. I had these particular stamps I just ordered. I ordered them 2 weeks ago about 3 weeks ago, and they shipped within 2 weeks, so I just got them yesterday. And they're from a company in China. I ordered them through AliExpress. They are not rip-offs of anybody else's stamps. This is this company, this is their own line of stamps designed by their artists, and they're very nice material. And I'm going to do a whole review on how great they are. You see how thick that is. I like the rubber stamp. I mean, I like the clear stamps, but there's something about these rubber stamps that it just gives you, like these stamps, you just get a better, I think, a more crisp image when you use these. So since I have these wonderful border stamps, I'm going to see how many ways I can combine them to create a background. Um, and then you can always cut these and color these images and cut them out and paste them onto your cards. These were $1.23 a piece, and I think I had like some coupons or something, and my order, when I ordered, my order was, it all came, it was free shipping, and then I had another coupon discount thing, so it didn't cost me a lot at all, and so that's why I did it. But I'm basically on a budget where I don't, I'm not ordering anything. I ordered toward the end of the year last year when AliExpress had a big sale, and I ordered a lot of 86-cent stuff and $1.15 stuff, and I just got things that I thought would be nice additions and that would last me through the whole year. And I try to get products from companies that it's their stuff and I know it's their stuff, and I don't run into any issues. But I'm not going to run into any issues anyway, because the only people who are going to tell me how to spend my money is me. I'm not telling you how to spend yours. I'm suggesting that you don't have to break your budget to participate in this craft. But no, no one should reach in your pocket. Nobody's going to tell me I got to pay $16 for something. I can get an equivalent product for $1.23. There's just no one in the world's going to talk me into that unless they're going to come here and, you know, pay my utilities and house note and, you know, share the expenses with me and my spouse. Otherwise, no. And I won't feel bad. You know, you do have to be careful. I have to tell you that, because there are some groups on Facebook that if you say you bought something from AliExpress, they are going to assume that it's a knockoff and they're going to kick you out of the group. And that's okay. You don't want to be in a group where, you know, people are in there trying to control your pocketbook in the middle of a pandemic and high unemployment. So, but anyway, we'll see what I'm able to do with these. I'll play with it and I'll do another video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.